I mentioned at the outset that we're going to be considering a couple of examples to get a better handle on how we should go about understanding arguments. And we've looked at one example, we've come to some conclusions about it. Let's now look at another example, example 1.2 in the book, the title of another letter to the editor in a Rochester newspaper, No to the Death Penalty. So why don't you take a second, it's a little bit longer as you can see, read it to yourself, and then we'll go with, and stop the recording here, read it to yourself, and then we'll go through it together. Okay, let's take a look at this one. No to the death penalty. It's unfair, it's costly, it's not as tough on crime as you think, ... Are death penalty laws fair? Is it in our interest to pass them? The answer to both questions is no. Some criminals may not deserve to live, but that doesn't mean the death penalty is a good idea. Let's start with fairness. The bill before the legislature is carefully drawn. It would kill only the worst killers, those who do it for hire, who torture, who have more than one victim, who kill while committing other crimes, who kill a police officer. What's more, the bill lists many mitigating circumstances. Mitigating circumstances, one which would make this law not apply. Emotional disturbance, the influence of alcohol or drugs, impaired mental capacity, no significant history of violent crime. Yet other states have careful laws and good intentions too, and even so, studies show the death penalty, as it is applied, discriminates by race. Quote, those who kill whites are between 3 or 4 times more likely to be sentenced to death than those who kill blacks. End of quote. University of Florida expert Michael Radelet told us. Clearly, juries tend to be more outraged when a victim is white, which is a mockery of fairness. Now for self-interest. You may think it's cheaper to kill a criminal than to keep him locked up for 40 years. Guess again. There are at least 11 costly, time-consuming stages built into the process of legal review for death sentences. Can't we cut through all that? Not if we care about fairness. Imagine what would be spent in New York so that expert counsel can file motion after motion, year after year, with exquisite regard for every conceivable right of their clients, while the families of victims wait bitterly for justice. It's just not worth it. Why waste millions of our tax dollars every year, clog the already crowded courts, fatten the wallet of lawyers, and still be no safer? Why not spend the money instead on a sure, swift law? Why not spend the money instead on sure, swift law enforcement? Why not, in fact, put the worst criminals in prison for good? Life without the parole, that's the governor's alternative to the death penalty, and it makes sense. Better to say no to the death penalty. It's not fair. It's not worth the cost. Good riddance. Why don't you spend a few minutes before going on to the next point and think about this and write down whether you think this particular passage contains a good point and is well argued for.